It was a quiet morning on Capitol Hill. Senator Ted Cruz was in his office, reviewing policy memos on economic reform, when his chief of staff, Mark, hurried in. "Senator, you need to see this right now," Mark said, his voice uncharacteristically tense. Cruz looked up, curiosity piqued by Mark's urgency. "What's going on?" Mark handed him a tablet with a live stream of a press conference happening across the city. On the screen, Senator Elizabeth Warren stood behind a podium addressing a packed hall at the National Press Club. She was discussing American leadership, economic justice, and the new direction the nation needed. But what caught Cruz's attention was something entirely unexpected. Warren was speaking directly about him. "Texas," Warren declared, her voice clear and resolute, "is showing that states can lead bold transformations under the right vision. Under Senator Ted Cruz, we are witnessing what local empowerment and a refusal to depend on old federal models can achieve. Self-reliance and dignity aren't just lofty ideals. They are becoming real." Cruz's heart skipped a beat. He never imagined hearing his own name from Elizabeth Warren, least of all in such positive terms. He kept watching, trying to process the moment. Warren continued, "Cruz has challenged the traditional top-down approach, insisting that communities should drive their own future based on mutual respect and faith in the American people. That is what true leadership looks like." The room erupted in applause as images flashed behind Warren. Texan farmers working reclaimed land, children in new schools, young engineers developing local tech solutions. It was a powerful, unexpected tribute. Ted Cruz lowered the tablet, still dazed. "I didn't expect that," he murmured, shaking his head. Mark grinned, unable to hide his excitement. "Senator, this is incredible. The whole country is seeing the impact of your work." But Cruz fell silent, the weight of Warren's words sinking in. He knew this moment wasn't just about him. It was about everyone in Texas who struggled for a better future. "Mark," he finally said, "we have to respond to this, but not with pride or self-congratulation, with gratitude and humility." Mark nodded, already organizing the next steps. He knew this would be a pivotal moment for the senator and the state. Meanwhile, across the city, Warren concluded her speech with a message aimed directly at Cruz. "Senator Cruz," she said, looking straight into the cameras, "if you're watching, know that your courage is inspiring many of us. Keep showing the country that our states don't need to be rescued. They deserve to be respected." Warren's statement quickly went viral, sparking fierce debates on social media about state sovereignty, self-sufficiency, and the meaning of American leadership. Hashtags like #RespectTheseStates and #LeadershipWithDignity began trending, highlighting the need for public policies built around local communities. Back in his office, Cruz absorbed Warren's words. He realized this wasn't just a tribute, it was national recognition of the path Texas had chosen. "Mark," he said after a moment of reflection, "schedule a press conference for tomorrow. We need to show the country this isn't just about me, it's about our people." Mark nodded, already working on the details, knowing this would be a defining moment. Cruz stepped up to the podium, facing the sea of reporters and supporters in the press room. His eyes swept the audience, his voice steady but full of emotion. "Yesterday," he began, looking directly into the cameras, "Senator Elizabeth Warren made remarks about Texas and about me that left me speechless. I never expected to hear my name spoken with such respect by someone I've so often debated on the Senate floor." The room fell completely silent. Everyone hung on his every word. Cruz paused, then continued. "But what truly touched me wasn't praise for myself. It was the recognition of the hard work and determination of the people of Texas, our communities, our families, our local leaders who every day fight to build a better future." Then Cruz made an announcement that would ripple across the country. "Today, I'm launching a new initiative, the Sovereign States Project. Its mission is simple: to empower local communities to create sustainable solutions for their own problems, without depending on federal intervention." He paused as a wave of applause swept the room, especially among local journalists who had witnessed the struggles firsthand. Yet, not everyone was convinced. A reporter from the Washington Post raised a hand. "Senator, how do you expect Texas communities to thrive without federal support or external funding? Isn't that too risky?" Cruz smiled, unwavering. There's risk in everything we do, but the greatest risk of all is accepting help that comes at the expense of our independence and dignity. We're betting on the potential of our people, and I have no doubt they'll deliver. His response quickly went viral, generating intense debates on social media about federalism, state sovereignty, and the future of sustainable American development. Hashtags like #respect the states and #leadership with dignity trended for days, shining a spotlight on the question of whether communities should chart their own course. Behind the scenes, Cruz's team was already hard at work. His staff organized meetings with local leaders to identify which regions needed the most support, while community outreach coordinators visited neighborhoods, listening to citizens' needs. "This is going to change everything," said an elderly rancher during one such visit. "For the first time, we'll have the chance to take real ownership of our land and our livelihoods." Mark, Cruz's chief of staff, watched these interactions with pride. He understood that this was about more than politics or headlines. It was an opportunity to transform lives across Texas. Meanwhile, Warren's unexpected praise of Cruz and Texas's self-reliant approach stirred international conversation. American allies debated whether such state-driven innovation could be a model elsewhere. Back home, reactions were mixed. Some saw Warren's remarks as a breakthrough moment, proof that leadership could cross party lines. Others criticized the suggestion that any state could flourish without federal support. As the debate over state independence and local empowerment spread across the country, national news outlets invited commentators to weigh in. During a live interview, a respected political analyst voiced his admiration for Cruz's bold stance. "Ted Cruz is reminding us of something fundamental," the analyst said. "Leadership is not about imposing solutions from Washington, but about empowering people to build their own futures." Across the states, Cruz's initiative became a talking point, not just in Texas, but in other regions where local leaders were eager to chart their own path. In Ohio, for example, a group of young community organizers launched a campaign called Value Your People, raising funds to help rural towns develop sustainable projects. The idea of grassroots transformation was catching on. Back in Texas, Cruz and his team kept close track of the sovereign state's project's progress. On a visit to a small town near Lubbock, Cruz met a woman named Faith who had benefited from the program. She was teaching carpentry to other women in the community. "Before, I could barely support my kids," Faith told a local TV reporter. "Now I'm helping other women build a better life. It's all thanks to this new approach from Senator Cruz." Images of Faith and her students quickly circulated on social media, further cementing Cruz's image as a visionary leader. Hashtags like #respect the states and #leadership with dignity continued to trend, driving public conversation about local empowerment. Behind the scenes, Cruz's staff were busy expanding the program. His policy advisors partnered with universities to provide technical training for workers, while his outreach coordinators ensured that families gained access to essential resources like water and reliable electricity. "We're just getting started," Cruz told his team at a late-night meeting. "But already we're seeing real change: economic, social, cultural, and most importantly, human." One journalist in attendance scribbled a note in his pad. "Today in Texas, I saw the future of an America that values its roots, honors its everyday heroes, and builds bridges of dignity for all." Later, Faith made her way to the town's new innovation center, emotions swirling within her. She traveled hours from her rural home, carrying with her not just a suitcase, but her late mother's hopes that her daughter might achieve something greater. The center was alive with excitement. Community members gathered to celebrate the new opportunities the project had brought. Cruz's staffer, Mark, was there, tears in his eyes as he coordinated the final details for the ceremony. At his side stood Malik, a local boy who'd once battled illness and now proudly held a board covered in photos of local initiatives. Cruz took the stage, visibly moved when he saw Faith enter. He stepped down, took her hand and said, his voice catching, "Welcome, you are living proof that we are building something larger than ourselves." Faith nodded, blinking back tears. "My mother always believed this day would come," she said, clutching an old book her mother had left her. Inside was a single line: "Knowledge is the greatest inheritance we can leave." Cruz smiled, deeply touched. He knew this was more than just a memory. It was a reminder that every act of kindness could spark lasting change. During his speech that day, Cruz addressed the crowd with conviction. We are not here just to celebrate statistics or policy papers. We are here to honor those who have built this state with their hands and minds. You are the true pillars of Texas. The room erupted in applause, the message echoing well beyond the auditorium walls. At the close of the ceremony, Cruz turned to the cameras, knowing that former President Obama would likely be watching from afar. President Obama, Cruz began, locking eyes with the lens. Your words left me speechless. But I want you to know your message wasn't just about me. It was about all the people of Texas and Americans everywhere who fight every day to build a better future for their families and communities. The audience erupted in warm applause. Images played across the screens, fields blooming with new crops, children learning in freshly renovated schools, young innovators demonstrating projects in bustling workshops. Then, Faith was invited to the stage. She hesitated for a moment, then found her voice, holding up her late mother's book. My mother always taught me to fight for my dreams, Faith said, her voice trembling with pride. And today, thanks to this center, I know I can achieve hers too. I want to use what I've learned to help my neighbors grow more and to take better care of our land. The crowd cheered and Cruz embraced Faith, realizing that the true measure of the project's success was not in numbers, but in the spark of hope it gave to the next generation. A journalist scribbled a line in his notepad. Today in Texas, I saw the future of an America that honors its roots, lifts up its people, and builds bridges of dignity for all. Meanwhile, former President Obama watched the live broadcast with growing admiration. In a subsequent interview, he was asked about Cruz's efforts. Ted Cruz is showing the country something important, Obama replied, surprising the panel. He's proving that real leadership means listening to your people and acting with humility. Obama's words echoed across the media landscape, reinforcing the idea that genuine leadership and small acts of kindness could unite Americans from every corner of the nation. Back in Texas, Cruz's mission continued. On a visit to a rural school, he met a young girl named Maddie who had received new school supplies thanks to the community initiative. Shyly, she handed him a handmade card. Senator, she said, voice trembling, this is for you. I wanted to show you that we're using what we've been given to learn and grow. Cruz smiled, deeply moved. Maddie, you don't owe it to me or anyone else. You're showing the world that when we give people the right tools, they can do anything.